Esa puede ser parte de la razón por que alguna gente parece feliz, no importa lo que hagan, mientras otros tienen problemas encontrando un trabajo que los satisfaga, dijo psicólogo industrial Richard Harvey.
So we just jumped from this thing on gravity to this thing on, it's a newspaper article that's got, you know, multiple languages to it. So for example, I can go in and look at the words and terms in it in terms of getting an alternative representation, which in this case is a language, or reference, which in this case is a language. Here again, I'm able to highlight, in this case, a phrase, mutually learning oriented, which we were talking about earlier, and go up and get a quick reference support for it. Again, in this case, there was just an author's note. When I go to click on that, depending on what's available, I could see any one of the 12 or more, arguably, as the system grows. And that if it didn't have something I wanted, like I wanted to see a different kind of quote, boom, I've got that immediate ability to shift into a feedback mode.
Now, in that feedback mode, can you also communicate thoughts that you have? I notice you have icons there, but could you actually type in something? Let's say you have some feedback that you want to give me in words. Can you do that there too?
Yes. Let's go back to here, for example, and let's say, let's take, you know, back to our mutually learning phrase and say that we really wanted to send a, we would like to see this really unpacked, right? Now, at this point in time, if you look at the monitor, you notice that there's a mail icon, there's a publishing icon, there's a feedback icon, which is its default mode, and then, of course, this refers to the fact that it was on encyclopedia that we asked for, or we asked for more elaboration, and that's our primary feedback. We can, at this point, type in what more we wanted, more specifically, whatever it might be. Or, if we'd like to, and this is a little more complex, we can jump into the publishing mode and we can actually create the encyclopedia and contribute it to the system. Or, while we're here, we can go in and pick out a particular person and send a message to them, if this is in the network-based system, that will allow the people to actually be able to correspond or collaborate in the same space that the learner interface is functioning in. So if we were working together and we came across this, I might send messages back and forth that when you got the message through your system would call you to the same spot in the material that I was when I wrote it.
Yes.
So there's feedback. There's, first of all, with respect to words, terms, phrases, or elements, as I said, you can highlight them, click them. The reference menu fires to show you what's available. And then you have the following choices of getting anything that's available, articulating your need that wasn't responded to, creating a response that can contribute to the system, or sending a piece of mail to somebody you're collaborating with to draw their attention into that same area. So the same basic simple structure of point, click, view, situationally relevant responsive menus then can trigger you off into getting the response to your meaning needs or empowering you to act on your meaning needs in some way. In both cases, coming back to the point that I made earlier, whether it's because you got your meaning needs satisfied because there was material to support you, or you were at least able to, even if there wasn't material available to support you, you were at least able to follow through using this system and therefore continue to learn the value of your own, again, need movement. Before we go on any further, I think, this is Darren, by the way, the boy I was talking about earlier. This is, notice that when I loaded this particular module, the interface situated itself. I didn't have to ask it to put a picture up or put alternative references or what have you. That the system, as we move through it, not only has these reference dexterities I've spoke of, but it also has the capacity to allow authors in very simple ways to script how it will wake up, so that when somebody, in this case, goes into a new space, a new curriculum space, or a new meaning module, as we call it, that the system will automatically situate itself to maximize its presentational power, but without it taking anything away from the way in which the learners can directly relate to it. So I push a button, it goes back to a normal view, and immediately I can go on to see what's available just as I had before. So that's the relevant reference process. And I want to move along now due to time and try to pick up one of the other components, which is the alternate representations. One of the other classes of meaning needs that somebody can have as they move through experience continuum, in addition to the word, term, phrase, acronym, place, byte level, the bits and parts level, is the construct level. What does it all mean level? And here, which we call representations, here, for example, we want to be able to deal with different cognitive biases, different sensory preferences, different learning style issues. This is the control panel, if you will, for those type of representational controls. We have the earth, which represents grounded, practical, down on the ground. Empirical, this puzzle piece, which demonstrates the empirical, scientific, reductionist. This conductive piece, which means more story or narrative or, again, conducting somebody. And this deals with alternative languages. Each one of these is capable of having a number of different sub-representations. So the central thread or key points or essential ideas, lecture notes, commentary by a coach, current event relevancy. These are, for example, as I was talking again on the learner scope, I may be able to spin that lens, say, I really need something that's much more practical. I don't want to be off in the clouds with this, right? I don't want to understand all of its theory. I just want to know how to use it. I want to be informed, not understand. Then I might switch over to the earth here, grounded, let's be real practical, and then switch to underneath it to key points, so that now I can look at what it was that you presented, what your intention was, and get right at the key points to it. Or the laws, rules, relationships, natural history, epistemology, essential activity, structure, statistics, measurement. This dealing with the more empirical, abstract, or scientific. So in this case, I'm in your multimedia course, and I encounter this thing, maybe it's in the Civil War, but there's a thing about cannon barrels, and I want to understand the statistics or measurements of how the bore was made. So I can spin into that content area and use these tools as navigating towards what I really am interested in, what I'm curious or uncertain about. The other side would be the conductive or metaphoric, where I might travel through the history or personalities, the story, arts, drama, the human drama underneath things, the conflict or counterpoint, which is oftentimes very good at illustrating meaning, the convergence or shared meaning, dialogue, the beauty or elegance that underlies something. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, there's languages, which would deal with numerous different kinds of languages.